Everybody, welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. My name is Amir. Hope everybody's doing well today. So last night the Miami Heat played their fourth preseason game. They played against the Brooklyn Nets at home at the Kaseya Center, and they lost 107 to 104. I watched probably half of the game. Wasn't too exciting. A lot of players have sat out this game as well. So the Heat were shorthanded. So a lot of players who were fighting for full-time contracts, two-way contracts, and players who were fighting to be a part of the top 9 in the rotation had an opportunity to play tonight against the Nets, who played most of their starters. And folks like Mikal Bridges and Nick Claxton played a majority of the game. So they were able to play against a starting unit. And some players really played well. So the Miami Heat started with Duncan Robinson, Jamal Cain, Bam Adebayo, Haywood Highsmith, and Josh Richardson. And Josh Richardson only played 7 minutes, unfortunately. Last night, he did sustain a ankle injury, so we don't know the severity of that injury. It didn't look too bad, but I'm going to assume that he's not going to play tomorrow against the Houston Rockets when Miami plays at Houston for their final preseason game before the regular season starts next Wednesday when they play against the Detroit Pistons. So there's a few players that stood out during this game last night. One was Jamal Cain. He's continued to elevate his presence during the preseason so far, so he's definitely stood out the most because in training camp he wasn't really talked about. He was fighting for a standard contract this offseason, but he was given only a two-way contract. So Orlando Robinson was the only player who was a two-way player last year that got that standard full contract. And so he's been fighting and clawing his way into an opportunity, into a contract. And I think he has probably secured one of those last 2 spots. So we have 13 players signed. We have 2 spots available. And I think based on his play over these 4 games, I think he's definitely going to get that contract, which is exciting. So he is going to be another player that's been in our system for a few years, who is a Swiss Army type player. So similar to like Caleb Martin, a player who can play the small forward position or the power forward position. And he is versatile. So last night, he didn't shoot very efficiently. He was 3 for 9 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, which is good. He had 7 points, but the thing that stood out the most is the 14 rebounds. So this is the second game in a row where he's had double-digit rebounds. He had 8 defensive rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds. So he's giving this Miami Heat team second chance opportunities, which is huge. He's super athletic. He has a knack for rebounding the ball, which is huge. And defensively, he's a pretty good defensive player. So we picture him to be a 3-and-D type player like we had with Caleb Martin, And we're hoping that he can develop his offense and skill set as he gets more time and opportunity experience with this Miami Heat team. So I'm pleasantly surprised with Cain. So he is a prototypical player that the Miami Heat like, who is a 3-and-D type player. So again, like Haywood Highsmith, who we'll get to in a minute, Caleb Martin, Jimmy Butler. So happy for him and glad he's going to have an opportunity to showcase his ability on the defensive end. And I hope he's going to be able to improve his efficiency and effectiveness on the offensive end. All we need him to do really is to be a spot-up corner 3-point shooter, and we need someone that is energetic and active on the defensive glass and offensive glass. We need someone to be able to cut. So I think he's a good fit. And he'll definitely get opportunity to play certain nights, especially if folks like Jimmy and Caleb are in foul trouble, or if there are any injuries to Caleb Martin or Haywood Highsmith moving forward. So speaking of Haywood Highsmith, I think he's the other person who has impressed the most during this preseason. His stock has definitely gone up, and he's shown last season during the regular season glimpses of what he could possibly do. We all know that he came in as a two-way player as well, two-way contract, and fought his way into the rotation. Didn't play too many games his first season 2 years ago with the Heat. Last year he played around 54, 55 games or so. Offensively, wasn't the most talented player. He was able to hit the three, but not at a high clip. I think he was shooting like in the low 30s. So hoping that can increase this regular season. If we can get him up to like that 36, 37 range, then I think he can make a huge impact to this team and help this roster out significantly moving forward next season. And so Haywood, showed glimpses also in the NBA playoffs. He didn't get a lot of time in the playoffs, but he did play in the finals, and he played pretty well in his limited minutes. And Heat fans were kind of upset that he didn't get a larger opportunity. And that's, I think, when he started hitting more shots and becoming more effective from three, was in that playoff run. And it's trickled over into the offseason and the preseason now. And so he's had 3 or 4 really good games so far coming off the bench. He started this game and he had 15 points, 1 block, 1 assist, 3 rebounds. He was 6 from 8 from the field, 3 from 4 from 3, which is great. And he, again, is developing that 3-point shot. He's not really hesitating. He's taking them more in flow. And so people have said that he could play that PJ Tucker role. We said that to Caleb Martin last year as he was a part-time starter last year. He was trying to fill in that PJ Tucker role. But of course, we already know that Caleb Martin at this stage is better than PJ Tucker, has a larger skill set than PJ did offensively, as we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals last year when he balled out against the Boston Celtics. So Haywood, I think, is definitely going to be in that rotation now as the backup power forward. I see him as the backup to Kevin Love temporarily. So he's going to come off the bench with the likes of potentially either Jay Rich or Kyle Lowry. We still don't know who's going to be starting point guard. I think it's going to be Kyle Lowry because Jay Rich has not shown a lot so far, or impacted the team during this preseason run. So I think Kyle Lowry is probably going to start the beginning of the season. So Haywood Highsmith is going to come off the bench with, I'm assuming, Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, who probably come in for Jimmy as a small forward, Thomas Bryant, and Duncan Robinson. So pretty deep team right there. That's only 10 players. So that's not even including players like Orlando Robinson, Jaime Jaquez, and even Jovic right there. So that's 13. So I feel like all these players will have an opportunity to play, especially with injury. So I don't think players like Orlando Robinson is going to get too much time. He hasn't really done a lot in the preseason. He's not even getting a ton of time in the preseason. So I think Thomas Bryant has definitely established that he's the backup center, and he's going to be the one who's going to be getting the majority of those minutes behind Bam. Jaime Jaquez, I'm sure, is going to play. Players like Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry, I assume, are going to get 15 to 20 minutes max. So that's still going to give an opportunity to get players in like Jaime Jaquez and possibly Jovic, where they can get 5 to 7 minutes. Jaquez probably will get a little more than that, but I'm assuming Jovic would get like 5 or 6 minutes just to see what he can do. But yeah, it's a good problem to have, and we are obviously really deep. But also, yeah, so other players in this game that played well. Bam has been really good this preseason. In limited minutes, he only played 16 minutes yesterday, but he had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 for 15 shooting. So he's been really effective. He looks like he's been working on his offense during this offseason, and I don't think he's going to be shooting threes or doing anything special this year, but I think he's going to be improving on his mid-range game as well as his back to the basket game. I think we'll see slight improvements there. So Bam has been good this preseason. Keep trying to say off season. Duncan Robinson, again, shooting inefficiently. 2 out of the 4 games, shot 1 for 6 from 3, which is bad. 4 for 12 from the field, but he had 12 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. He is getting better at putting the ball on the floor. He's not athletic. He doesn't have the best handle, but he is improving from a lethal sharpshooter where all he was doing was shooting the ball. Now he's able to put the ball on the floor a little bit and get to the basket, but also he's starting to create for his teammates. So his playmaking ability, I think, is slightly underrated. Outside of the pick and roll with Bam, we all know they have good chemistry with the DHO and a lot of the gravity that Duncan gets with that DHO through Bam. He's able to sometimes throw the ball back up to Bam on the roll. And we saw like a really good alley-oop where he was going to pull it from 3 from the corner and saw Bam wide open for an alley-oop, and he threw the alley-oop instead. So Duncan, even though he's not shooting the best, has shown that he's growing and developing his skill set, which will give him an opportunity to come off the bench. Just, it's good to see that like he could still possibly make an impact even if he's not shooting effectively. So kudos to Robinson. Who else played well? Cole Swider has continued to impress in the preseason. He had 15 points, a couple rebounds, an assist. He was 5 for 10 from the field, 3 from 8 from 3. So he's showing the ability to make some tough shots, which is good. So he's not just a spot-up shooter. He's not just a catch and shoot 3-point shooter, but he's able to pull up and sidestep and get that shot off in different variations. So he's continuing to impress. I think he's going to definitely be one of our two-way players, and he's going to be one of the next shooters that we develop in our system, like Max and like Duncan Robinson. So excited for that. Thomas Bryant was again efficient, 3 for 6, 16 minutes. He had 8 points, 4 boards, and an assist. So definitely going to be one of the best backups that Bam's had. And definitely the type of traditional center that we've not really had, who is able to get buckets in the paint, who is a good pick and roll / pick and pop player, who has the ability to spread the floor and hit the 3 every once in a while. So I'm excited for Thomas Bryant. Drew Smith played pretty decent, especially from a playmaking perspective. He had 9 points, 10 assists, 3 turnovers only, so not bad. 3 rebounds. He was 4 for 12 and 1 from the field, 1 from 3. So offensively, doesn't look as good as a Gabe Vincent, if you will, but defensively, he's pretty good. And he's one of our only like standard point guards that we have on this roster outside of Kyle Lowry. So not a bad performance by him. And then lastly, Jovic finally came back from a bruised knee. He's missed, I think, 2 of the 4 games. Well, basically 3, because he only played 7 minutes in the first game. And so Jovic had 9 points, 5 rebounds, couple assists, a block. Very inefficient, 3 from 9 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Jovic. He's still super young. He's 21 years old. Basically, this is going to be his rookie season. He only played 15 games last year. Didn't have an opportunity to play. He only played a few minutes per game in those 15 games. So he looks a little erratic out there. He looks like he's moving too quickly. I think the NBA game compared to the European game is a lot slower compared to the NBA. And so he seems to be rushing. He seems to be erratic. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to have the impact this season that a lot of Heat fans expect. A lot of Heat fans, which make me laugh, during the Damian Lillard sweepstakes, were adamant about not including him in any trade, and were kind of making him untouchable, which is kind of comical, because again, he's so young. He was a late first round draft pick. He's unproven. He had a couple good games in the FIBA World Cup, which is great, but that doesn't always translate to the NBA. And so he's showing that he's young and inexperienced, and that it's going to take some time for him to get used to the NBA game and for him to develop. And so I don't know. I think I'm higher on Jaime Jaquez Jr. He is older. He did play college ball in the States. I think he looks more impactful and will play more minutes compared to him this season. But I think still Jovic has a lot of room, obviously, to grow. I think he could be a really good prospect, but it all depends on the lineups. I think he is better when he is the playmaker, when he's bringing the ball up, kind of like how Bam would early on in his career as a point forward. I think, yeah, he's a good playmaker, but he still is making some bad decisions offensively. So defensively, he had a block, which was pretty nice, but he's not the quickest when it comes to lateral movement. But he is quick in general, but not laterally. So there's a lot of room for growth on the defensive end too, but not too worried. He's 21 years old. He's going to be at the end of our rotation. He'll get opportunity in some minutes to play behind Kevin Love. He'll get some good mentorship from Kevin Love, which is good too. But yeah, I'm hoping he could play better tomorrow against the Rockets. He needs more time. He needs more opportunity. He needs more reps, but we'll see. But anyway, the takeaways from the game last night, even though we lost, preseason doesn't matter, is Jamal Cain is definitely going to get a spot on this roster. I think a standard contract as one of the 14 players, which is great. Happy for that. Haywood Highsmith has proven that he's going to be a great rotational player and possibly even a starter. I don't know. Like, I feel like if he can shoot like in the 37-38% range from three during the season, he can move up and become that starter for K Love. So I could picture him as a starter eventually, or even if he doesn't start, as long as he's playing in the fourth quarter, I think that would be super impactful from a defensive perspective. So having Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Haywood Highsmith, and let's say a Caleb Martin would be obviously pretty small, with Bam Adebayo being the biggest player on that lineup. But could you imagine that lineup in the fourth quarter? Like how hard it would be to score on those guys. And if Caleb Martin develops his skill set, continues to get better off the dribble, attacking the rim, can you imagine, like, because Jimmy and Bam will have the spacing to operate if Caleb continues to hit that three well, if Highsmith hits that three well, and then Tyler Hero, of course, if he continues to hit that three effectively, then that could be a pretty deadly small lineup right there. And I would be excited to see that. So, but anyway, that was it for today's video. Just wanted to do a quick recap on that preseason game. The Miami Heat, again, are playing tomorrow against the Houston Rockets. A lot of players are going to sit out. Again, I'm assuming Hero, I could imagine, is not playing. Jimmy, Bam, Kyle Lowry. Caleb Martin hasn't played a single game yet this preseason, so he's rehabbing his knee injury. So I'm going to assume a lot of folks are going to be out. Jaquez is probably going to be out again until the season opener. His goal is to play in the first game, so I don't imagine him playing as well. So anyway, thank you so much, guys. Hope you guys have a good day. Talk to you guys soon.